All right. I'm sorry I took longer than usual. Okay, we'll do the opening chant. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunattu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the all-pervading spirit protect us. May the all-pervading spirit nourish us. May we work together with great energy. May our study be illuminating. May love and harmony dwell amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. All right, we are in Katha Upanishad, third chapter. This chapter is all about a vehicle, chariot. Chariot. Chariot is a great analogy which can be compared with modern day cars. Okay, we shall do a such comparison with the chariot and the car uh, after we read the following two verses. So, the put into context, even after saying all about our higher nature, spiritual nature, um, the question comes to our mind, if our higher nature is such, which is not limited, which is vast, which is not affected by anything, so why we don't feel so? Why we can live up to that? In that context, Yama says that within us, there are two selves, as it were. There are two selves. One which is experiencing things, good, bad, bitter, elated, dejected, disappointed one. And at the same heart, there is another higher self. Just like the Mundoga Upanishad, two birds sitting in the same tree. One is the silent one, which is looking, witnessing everything. The other one is jumping from branch to branch, eating sometimes ripe fruits, sweet fruit, sometimes bitter fruit, and all of it. So this is human condition. Although we are all potentially can live up to our higher self, but practically there is a problem. Problem is this lower self. Now, this lower self, the empirical self, all we, again, empirical self, lower self is the normal self of what we are as enjoyer, as agent, as experiencer, all of it. Whatever we think about ourselves is the lower self. Okay. And this, to give the big picture that we should not forget about it, is this, that our spiritual nature is the vast, the unlimited one, but the same one identifies itself with this body and mind, which the body mind is compared to a chariot. So when our higher nature identified itself with the chariot, it becomes the passenger. It becomes the passenger. So it has, as it were, we have choices. We have two choices, whether to identify ourselves with our thoughts, with our body, with our, all of it, or can we identify ourselves as pure awareness or pure consciousness? This is the crux of actually Patanjali Yoga and Samkhya. If you boil down Patanjali Yoga, it comes down to this. Purusha, they call it Purusha, what we are calling Atma, our higher nature, as Purusha. Purusha, as it were, has two options: to identify itself with the thoughts and emotions and all of it, or to not identify with any of these and remain on its pure, pristine self. Third sutra, Patanjali Yoga, tada drashtuhu sarupe avasthanam. So when all the thoughts have stopped, all the bubbling of the minds, waves of the mind have stopped, then we are in our true nature. What happens at other times? Vastu sārathim, viddhi sāratham, itihi ātma. Other times, what happens is we identify with our thoughts. We know all of it, right? Many of our thoughts are irrational, but still we keep on thinking them as real, right? Thinking them as real. For example, a common thought, anxiety. What if it does not come at time? What if I cannot face the situation? What if? And we know that in the past, we have gone through these thoughts millions of times. And every time we feared, actually, there was nothing fearful about to be. we really handled all the situations very well, but still the thoughts are going on. What if? What if things become uncertain? How can I deal with that? How do I plan for it? So the point is, not every thought that is arising in our mind has any reality, but still we are identifying with them. Okay. So we have a choice whether to identify with our thoughts or accept these thoughts and emotions and sufferings and all our interaction as our empirical self, which is a part of us. What the practical benefit of this kind of thinking is this: we can put things into perspective. We can put things into perspective. Compare that you are in a car and you think that you are a passenger and that is your whole reality. You have no other identity. You are a passenger only. So how constricted we will feel, right? Fine, 1 hour, 2 hour, fine. But if we have to spend the whole life within the car, how do you feel? Absolutely, it's like that. So when we are in the car, we are the passenger or driver, whatever capacity we are doing this role, but that's not all of it. So in two verses, it will say that pure consciousness, when it identifies with this vehicle called body and mind and intellect and the senses, then it thinks itself, assumes itself as the passenger, as the passenger. So this point has to be really, really understood well, that when we become passenger, when we are becoming experiencer, agents, because experience means good experience, bad experience. Agency means good action, bad action, and the consequent, worries and thoughts and problems with all of it. And now, if we always identify ourselves with agency, with experiences, then our life will be like passing the whole life within a car, Okay. With this introduction, let us delve into the next two verses. So interesting, next 6 verses are such that I believe they are best understood if they are studied together. That is verse 3.3 and 4 together, 3.5 and 3.6 together, 3.7 and 3.8 together. These are cognate verses. Okay. So these next two verses will be all about the analogy of a chariot. Chariot with um, own, our own situation, our own existence is being compared with a chariot, and different aspects of the chariot are being compared with different parts of our being. Okay. All right. And these two verses also um, have deep significance if we study between the lines, which are not told, but if we can unpack them. One such is that if we go back to the last two verses, it said it is two selves reside in the same heart, and one is experiencing good, bad, the other one is not. And these two are like as different as day and night, day and night, right? One is the light, the higher self, spiritual self. The other one is as it were dark. Okay. So dark in the sense that the illumination of awareness is missing. It is, there is awareness, there is there is the consciousness, but it is mixed up with other things. So then the verse said that we need a bridge. We need a bridge to jump from the lower to higher self. Okay. So the bridge, the idea of bridge implies it's a journey, but the journey is inward journey. And for this journey of living a life of empirical life versus living a spiritual life, it requires a journey. And for that journey, we need a vehicle. For any journey, we need a vehicle. What is our vehicle? The only available vehicle to us for this journey is our own being, our own body, our own mind, our own intellect. All of these are the only things that we have for this journey. We cannot discard this vehicle. This is the only thing we have got. But Upanishad is trying to show us that how to drive this car, how to drive this chariot well, so that it takes us to our destinations, right? In other words, imagine a car, self-driving car, which is gone rogue and not following your direction at all. So we want to go from Sacramento to San Francisco. It rather takes me from here to Walnut Creek because it is not in my control. And in a way, it is true. All of us, we can feel, right, that we want to go somewhere, but we go land of some. We know what our goal is, but we cannot live up to all of it. So all of these imply that we need to understand the vehicle of body mind well, so that we can take care of the vehicle, which helps us to reach our destination. So what is this vehicle like? Let's read the two verses. Okay. Okay, two verses together. ātmānam rathinam viddhi śarīram rathamev tu buddhim tu sārathim viddhi manaḥ pragrahamev cha indriyāṇi hayān āhuḥ viṣayān teṣu gocarān ātmendriya mano yuktam bhoktā manīṣiṇaḥ. Know the individual self as the rider in the chariot, the body as the chariot itself. know the intellect as the charioteer and the mind as the reins. The senses are called the horses, and the sense objects are their paths. The self, when associated with the senses and the mind, is called the experiencer. Thus say the wise. Thus say the wise. So, definitely, this analogy is not someone sat and thought, okay, let's do an analogy, this was from an insight, from inside. Manīṣiṇaḥ, the wise ones say so. Compare the chariot with our own existence. So here, quickly, what the verses are saying, I have generated an image, which I have already shared with you. I hope you have seen that. And I took the help of ChatGPT, okay, to generate this image. It is not my own creation. I just asked ChatGPT to create an image um, to represent the two verses. It did such a good job. Look at the picture. So, ātmānam śarīram, ātmānam rathinam. So, Atma means here not the spirit we are talking about, not our transcendental self. Atma here means the transcendental self when it is thinking itself as the passenger. Okay. That is the Atma. Although the verse use ātmānam rathinam viddhi, remember the Atma, our spiritual self, does not go anywhere, does not experience anything. It is beyond all of it. Does not go, does not experience, does not do anything. Only when it is conditioned by our limited mind, intellect, and body, then only it becomes the enjoyer, the experiencer. Otherwise, it is neutral in itself. It is not enjoying anything. It is just existent itself. Just the existence itself. Nothing has been added to it. It is not sullied by anything else. Imagine a crystal. Okay, a crystal is transparent crystal. It is existing on its own self. And you now bring a flower near the crystal appears to be red. So this is the example of how Atma, our spiritual self, can identify itself with the flowers. What are the flowers stand for? Let's see how. If the crystal is our Atma and
Mind body complex.
Anything more precise?
Sense objects?
Sense objects. So, yeah, it is right. But if you remember just what we said a few moments ago, that viddhi sarupam, thoughts. When Atma identifies itself with the thoughts, then it takes the color of the thoughts. I am happy. I am elated. I am suffering. I am disappointed. Hmm. Uh, I am fat. I am lean. I am obese. All of these thoughts that is generating in the mind, when Atma is identifying itself, it is becoming the experience. The right? Yes. All right. We shall come back. I know as we go, you will have questions. We shall come back to questions. All right. So where we were? Yes, the picture. So one who is sitting, but not only sitting, just, but thinking I am the passenger is the ātma, our empirical self. It is the jivatma, okay, jivatma, the conditioned self. All we think who we are is the jiva, is the empirical self, the passenger. And one who is riding the chariot is the intellect, buddhi, okay, charioteer, the passenger, and is the charioteer, intellect. Intellect decides where to go, where not to go, what to do, what not to do, where to put our attention, where not to. All of this decided by intellect. And intellect has mind to connect with the senses. So senses want to hear this, want to taste this, want to have this kind of experiences. Intellect, with the help of mind, controls. So mind is like the reins of the horses. So intellect says, no, don't go there, come back. So mind then does not attach to that sense object. So it is almost like that. We may look into something, but we may not process, right? It happens. We are listening, but actually not listening. So in this paradigm, what is happening is, although the sense ear is connected with sound, mind is absent there. So intellect has put the mind someplace else. Okay, we are not listening to that. So this is the idea that horses are like senses, powerful, and they want to run away. They want to go to different directions. Powerful ones, senses are powerful, you know, right? Sometimes we do things, so we are so mesmerized, we cannot but go for things. And the roads are compared to these sense objects. So we have different choices. Want to go to this road, or want to travel this road, this path, or that path. Similarly, we have choices where to put our attention. Okay. Would we be listening to the negative news all the time? That is our choices. Yeah. So this is the idea, chariot of life from the Katha Upanishad. So let's break it down. Let's break down the verses. Okay. So the traveler, the passenger is rathinam, rathi, that is the jivatma, one who is sitting, who is not directly driving, who is sitting there. The conditioned self, you know, and it is the bhoktā, it is the experiencer. So here, the passenger is not, again, we have to remember, the passenger is not our transcendental self, which is the goal, right? Living up to our transcendental self. The chariot is the body. So it is the instrument of travel, and it should be cared for, should not be neglected. Okay. To travel any good distance, we have to check whether the car is at right condition, right? Not a 1 hour journey, but suppose we are driving cross country. Surely, before doing such a thing, we'll try to check that our car is in proper shape. We are not our car. Nobody says, I am the Toyota. If we ask, who are you? You would not say, I am Honda. But Honda is the one you drive, and it is our duty to keep the Honda or Toyota, whatever we are driving, in good shape. Good shape. ātma, charioteer. And It is the one who carries us through life. It needs maintenance. It is not me, but I travel through it. Okay. So the chariot, the whole structure. And who is driver of this chariot? Intellect. Intellect. Okay. So here we have to understand what is the meaning of intellect. Intellect here does not mean high IQ, understanding many things, quickly understanding things, being smart. No, that is not the intellect here being talked about. Here, intellect all practically boils down to viveka, the power of discerning, the wisdom, the insight, where to go, where not to go. This power of discernment or viveka is the buddhi. It has been compared with buddhi. So I may feel like, oh, let me go and eat lot of potato chips. They are just lying in front of me. Different varieties, how many varieties of potato chips, jalapeno and what not. Kettle. Kettle is a tasty one. So yeah, all of it. But so the eyes see the potato chips and the tongue wants to taste it. Mind also says go. But the discernment, viveka, says no. You can taste only a bit, but it is not ultimately good for our health. That is the intellect, viveka, which helps us to discern which is right, which is wrong, what is essential, what is non-essential, what is enduring, what is temporary, what is for temporary pleasure, what is for long-term goal. This viveka. In other words, the power to discriminate between shreya and preya. You remember these two terms we encountered earlier? Shreya is the ultimate good, and preya is the pleasant one. The pleasant one. So one who can decide between the two, what is temporarily pleasant but not good in the long term, that is viveka. That is being compared with the charioteer, right? Is not it? Our whole life, what we want to be, where we want to go, what is our purpose of life is, are all all of these depend on our discernment. We have to, from time to time, um, it can be compared with the starlight, the light we follow to navigate. In earlier days, they did not have GPS. They navigated their life, they navigated their journey, seeing the starlight. So Viveka can be compared with our starlight. No, what is guiding us in our life? Where I am going, not only moment to moment decision, but the overall overarching purpose of life, you know, taking a step back and reflecting on our life. These are all the viveka or the charioteer itself, one who is driving. It decides direction and it needs training with discernment and wisdom. And if the driver is confused, if the charioteer is confused, the journey is wasted. So, if the driver is confused or driving under influence, we'll never reach our destination. So, we need to sharpen. We need to take care of the um, intellect, buddhi, our power of discernment, right? Then, reins, the mind, manaḥ is pragraham. So mind is the regulator. Without the mind, even senses don't work properly. And a distracted mind can be compared with loose reins. Um, and it is the steering wheel and the accelerator, actually. So if you are the driver, the viveki, the intellect, we can compare the steering wheels and pedals to be the mind. With the steering wheel and pedals, you decide how fast to go, which turn to take, whether to take this path, this road, or the next one, this uh, this lane or that lane. Okay, so with the help of the driving wheel and also the pedals, the gas and the brake. So this can be compared with the mind or the reins. Okay, so wheels are there. Wheels want to go here and there. Imagine if the wheels had life. Horses have lives, so horses want to go here and there. Compare, as it were, to comparing with a car, that imagine the wheels have their own mind. The senses are attracted by, the wheels are attracted by this road or that road. It, you, the driver, the intellect, with the help of mind, that is with the help of the steering wheel and the pedals, controlling the um, wheels, the wheels on the road, tires, where to go, where not to go. So if the mind is distracted, it is like driving with a loose steering wheel, a loose steering wheel, that you want it to go there, but mind is distracted. It does not want to follow you. All of these will be said in the next verses. Not next verses, but next two verses. Okay. Next two verses will be very nice. What how to take care of the car, or how to take care of the chariot. Um, what is the condition of a good chariot? What kind of chariot can take us to the destination? It will be told later on. How to maintain this chariot properly will be told later on. The horses, the sense organs. So the senses pull the body outward, ear chase sound, eyes chase form, tongue chases taste, we know very well. If the horses are wild, chariot crashes. So similarly, uh, they constantly pull us towards different objects. Strong engine is great unless it is uncontrolled. So senses are compared to horses, because horses are powerful, fast, right? Outward moving. Similarly, the senses also rush toward sound, form, taste, touch, smell, pull our attention outward, and these senses demand constant stimulation. So left unchecked, they drag the chariot wherever they please, wherever they please. So this is the problem of the senses, right? Then the roads are the sense objects or the life paths. So the world is the road network, pleasures, temptations, duties, opportunities. Some roads lead somewhere meaningful, some are lead us to dead ends, and some roads are actually the roads where accidents are waiting to happen. So similarly, so which road we choose for our journey, uh, that is compared to the sense objects. As sense objects pull us towards different direction, so different options can also pull us toward different direction. And intellect will guide the mind to choose the right direction. Now, here one thing more. It is not only things from outside that drive our attention, that pull our attention. It also means what are the thoughts we would like to entertain. Sometimes, without our wish, we keep on thinking many things which we feel like are not productive, but we still entertain those thoughts, right? One example is rumination. Rumination is not going to give us anything, but we cannot stop ruminating. Is not it? It happens in our life in small scale, large scale. Some are more prone to it. So uh, these these are also like the roads, the sense objects outside as they drag our mind toward different directions, our senses. Similarly, um, here the senses are not going out, but we may uh, we may run into ruts, familiar grooves. It's called grooves, right? When we keep on thinking or entertaining same types of thoughts or habitual thinking, these are like ruts. They just, we don't have any control. Like once we are into the rut, we run through the ruts again and again. So that also is important. That also is important to letting decide what kind of thoughts we can entertain. And you know what? You earlier people used to think we have no control over intrusive thoughts, but they have found no. Intrusive thoughts can be can be suppressed, can be suppressed. Many people, intrusive thoughts come to many people's life, but many people just say, "I don't want to." They just move on. They just don't entertain those intrusive, non-productive thoughts. It is possible. It is possible. So that is the point. Then, yes. Now, the most important thing is very crucial thing. The self becomes the enjoyer only by association. So the self itself does not eat, does not hear, does not see, does not enjoy. But when self, that is our pure consciousness, identifies with the mind and the senses, it appears as the doer and the enjoyer. So this is, you know what this is called? Identifying ourselves with the chariot. Guess, identifying ourselves with the chariot.
The lower self?
Lower self is the chariot, identifying itself with the
Dehatma buddhi.
Hmm.
Maya.
Yes, who said that? Rick? Yes. This is
Ignorance.
this is called avidya. Avidya. Avidya means not absence of knowledge. We call it ignorance and all, but real meaning is misidentification, wrong identification, non-recognizing who truly we are, misidentifying ourselves with all these thoughts and thought and thinking, this is we. This is the avidya, the root of all troubles. Why it is so? No answer. But it is like this manufacturing defect. This is the manufacturing defect of us, that we identify ourselves with only our body and mind and thoughts and all of the sense objects draws us. This is the avidya. And under the influence of avidya, what we think ourselves, we, the pure consciousness, unlimited, untainted, the pure one, starts thinking ourselves as the doer, as the enjoyer, as the mover. And with all of these identifications and all of these roles also come the associated troubles. Associated troubles. So that is important thing. That who is the passenger? Passenger is not the witness. Passenger is when the witness identifies itself with the car and things like that, or the journey, it becomes the passion. Okay, it becomes the passion. This is misidentification. So what, okay, we could go to the conclusion later on. I think we have some questions, right? Yeah.
Swami, when you were referring earlier about rumination and going into grooves, pulling us off track, our minds off track, is that the pull of the samskaras that we brought to this life?
Yes,
Isn't
samskaras, sure, samskaras are pulling us different directions. But again, who created the samskaras? We have created our samskaras,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, we have created. The point is, the beneficial point is not to think of what brought us here. The
mhm,
beneficial point is how can we undo it? How can
right.
we transcend it?
Or not repeat it.
Yeah, how
Repeat
not?
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Rick, question?
Yeah. So this machine that we
Yes,
occupy, the chariot,
yeah,
experiences objects of the senses,
yes,
and that becomes the experience.
yes,
Now, let's say we are fortunate and we have an experience of being
yes,
absolute.
yes.
Okay. Doesn't the same machine experience that?
No, no, it's not the same machine because at that time when we experience the higher self, we don't uh, we don't identify ourselves with our lower identities. It's not the machine is experiencing. Okay. In fact, the word experience cannot be used even here. When you are by yourself, what you are experiencing? Okay, what you are experiencing? You remain on your true self. There's nothing to experience. Nothing to experience. It is just existence alone. Any experience means the subject-object duality, and that is when we are identifying ourselves as someone separate from the objects, and they are up for grab. Okay, so that's why it's a very dicey thing that remaining in our higher state cannot be called an experience. Cannot be called an experience because at that time we are not actually experiencing anything. We are just being there. Okay. Remember in the previous chapter, it was said that the Atma does not do anything, it does not even feel anything. To emphasize this point that the pure consciousness does not do anything, does not experience anything. It is just by itself. Okay.
But it is also the creator. It is the absolute source of all those experiences. In fact, we say it's not a duality, it's one. So
Hmm.
the being pure is being this,
Yes.
being that. So the being is ever present in everything, only we don't know it.
Hmm.
So when you have the experience,
Yes.
let me find words. It occurred to me this. I could be wrong, probably wrong. But if you have this experience, what occurs sometimes, I think, is that you find the absolute experience in your relative experience.
Hmm.
And then, as you become more familiar with it, in the beginning, it seems that it's a small part of the absolute experience, is a small part of your relative experience. And then, as that experience grows, you realize that your relative experience is a small part of the absolute one.
Hmm.
And that's how the absolute one becomes dominant.
Hmm.
But when you find it, it's familiar to you because it's in your relative experience.
Hmm. Yes, yes, true. It's a different types of experience. Okay, we better not to compare it to other types of experience we are talking about. Okay, okay. All right, Subhash, you have a question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah.
More of a comment than a question.
Mm,
In Bhagavad Gita, Sri
mm,
Krishna is the charioteer, so it's very significant that if the charioteer is the Lord Himself,
mm.
then problems of life get solved easily.
Yeah, true, true, true. Absolutely. So the idea is to Upanishad will tell how to make the chariot, the mind, um, ready for a good chariot. Very soon Upanishad will say that uh, Vijnanavan. So intellect is well informed. It knows where to go, where not to go. Okay, as it has the wisdom, insight, Vijnanavan, and uh, yukteno manasa, whose mind is not distracted, in focused mind. A focused mind and an intellect which is established on wisdom and insight, and moreover, again, the Upanishad will say, the pure mind, suchi, pure mind. So, what is pure mind is actually a transparent mind, very transparent mind, which does not have to hide things, which is very open avenue. Sri Ramakrishna says that, when mind becomes pure and intellect becomes pure, they are as good as our higher self. That is, you can think of like this, our pure consciousness is like a light, like a light, a luminous, imagine a luminous lamp. And but the light cannot exist on its own. It requires some, glass or some protection around it. So this body mind that we have are like the protection of the flame. Now, if the glass that is covering the light is not transparent, has become dirty, then the light won't reflect through our activities. This is what actually Vic was pointing to, kind of, that um, what happens actually in spiritual life. Does an illumined person always live up to living on that transcendental plane, not enjoying anything, not experiencing anything? No. What happens is that their empirical self becomes so transparent that in daily transactions also they reflect that light of wisdom. Daily transactions, the transactional self is also becomes so transparent that it reflects the light of that ātma, light of the ātma. This is the thing. This is the thing that we need not conclude that since it is a lower self, empirical self, we we don't have to care for it, or we have to abandon these and we have to remain only to our higher self. No, the point is having awareness of the higher self and live up to that standard, up to that standard. It is almost like an example I would like to give, that we are living a life, normal life, and all of it. Suddenly, I got to know that there are $1 billion in my name in a Wells Fargo bank. I did not know it. Suddenly, I see, I was, just cleaning my tables and things. Suddenly, I see a checkbook and I notice that there is $1 billion in my name in Wells Fargo bank. What will change? My day-to-day life will change. The attitude will change. You know, I will stop being a stingy person. What stingy? Right, stingy person. Stingy person. Actually, this is the goal of spirituality. Not abandoning the life we are living, but living from awareness that we can live much more, comfortable life, much more vast life, expansive life, only with the um, awareness of our true nature. So what will become, to give you some practical examples, is you criticize me, right now in front of me, on my face, you say, criticize me. Swami, what you are talking about? You don't know Upanishad, neither you know Sanskrit, nor you know Upanishad. You are just saying anything. Now, if I'm identified only with the vehicle, I will see it as a threat. Because this is the only thing I know, my mind and my this chariot. But if I know that I am just driving the chariot right now, and I don't have to react to everything, it is not all of me. What will happen is I will take it objectively. I will try to find out, is there any substance in your criticism? What the point is there? Is there any point to take? Is there any wisdom to take from your criticism? I will not feel threatened. So this is what living our empirical life with the understanding of our transcendental life looks like. So what will happen is, in our day-to-day life, day-to-day transactional life, we'll still go to the grocery store. We have to still pay our bills. We have to still go to car wash for washing our car. But all of these will take it altogether different dimension, altogether different. Then actually, life becomes so enjoyable. Life becomes so enjoyable. Imagine some idea you got, right? Imagine it in full scale. It is called Jivan Mukti. That is liberated while living. I am doing everything. All you are doing, I am also doing, but I doing all of it with a sense of freedom and joy. I don't feel restricted by your comments. I don't feel that I am gone if I cannot perform well. What people will tell about me, what people will think about me, because these are all about the passenger is identifying itself only with the car, only with the car. Today, just aside, we went for a coffee. Chuck and I go on Fridays for mocha, and near the Starbucks, there was a lady who was driving a wonderful, beautiful car, Bentley car, Bentley car. So, and as it turned out, that we crossed paths several times. From Starbucks, we went to Sprouts. That lady was there with Bentley car again. Okay. So, it appeared to me uh, from the face of the lady that she is so identified with her car right now that if anything happens to the car, she will feel like, I am gone. I am dead. So this is what is happening to us unless we can live from a higher plane. Okay. And actually, they say this is the biggest challenge of spiritual life. Illumination or spiritual experiences can be had, but how to integrate those higher understanding or experiences with our common life. This is the challenge of spiritual life. This is the challenge of spiritual life. For example, if you go to a retreat for 3-4 days, and the bliss of the retreat, you are away from all these problems of the world. You are not you are beyond time now. Time is not pressuring on you. Everything is so blissful. But after 3-4 days from the retreat, coming back to the old life feels painful, right? So that is the challenge. Once we get to, higher plane of our higher existence, the challenge becomes how we adjust with the so-called normal life, the empirical life. And the beauty is that integrating these two, how to incorporate the wisdom of the higher life into our empirical life. That's why Swami Vivekananda said that if you want to see a great person, don't see his great works. See in his small works, mundane works, how they are doing. There's a lot of wisdom into it. The same thing we may be doing, but with what awareness one is doing. Okay. Yeah. So the life changes in that way. Our thoughts, our connection, our thinking of threatened, insecure, all of it just falls off if we can identify ourselves with the higher self. Otherwise, what is happening? The same self is somehow misidentifying itself with this chariot. And once we identify with the chariot, this is the only belonging I have. So all I will become is a passenger or a owner of the vehicle. That will become my only identity. Okay. And it's a restricted identity, right? Any identity is actually restricted. And Upanishad is speaking about unrestricted identity, unrestricted, unlimited, which is not conditioned, unconditional one. Okay. That is the ātma. But the same ātma, being as it were embodied in this chariot, is now thinking itself as passenger. As a result, when we are driving by, if somebody cuts us off, we get angry. We become angry. What? Then if body is some people also falls into road rage, because identifying so much as a passenger, a car suddenly comes by and crosses me, it gives me that I am loser here. I am thinking myself at that time that I am the driver, and that is my only identity. To give you some idea about it, this is what Upanishad is pointing to. Yes, Preeti ji. Wanna ask something, Preeti ji?
Yes. So,
Yes, go ahead.
oh, right. Can you hear me, Maharaj?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, maybe this is very obvious to everyone, but I just had a question about the person who's sitting in the chariot, the individual self.
Hmm.
And so I noticed that the term the ego is missing, because we see the different functions of the mind here, the intellect, the mind itself, which we can correlate with maybe chitta or something. But is that where that is the ego, the individual self? And
Yes.
and at the
Wonderful question. Let me see who can answer it. One who can answer it understood Patanjali Yoga very well, which is a very, very good one to understand Upanishads. So where is the ego? We have ego, right? Function of mind.
Yeah. Is it at the level of avidya, Maharaj? That's avidya, that level itself, your separatedness from the self.
Yes.
So
Yes.
at that point, right?
Yes. If you look at the 5 afflictions, kleshas, avidya, then
Yeah.
asmita. Asmita is ego.
Ah,
Misidentification with body, mind, thoughts give rise the sense of I am this. Asmita. Asmita means what? I amness. I amness, which I amness? I am the present I am,
right.
This body, mind, fixated in time and space. Asmita, ego, comes after avidya. Misidentification gives rise to ego. What is ego actually, even in psychology, in Western psychology? Ego is the same sense of who we are. That is the ego, right? The functional self. Functional self is the chariot and the all of it. Okay. The whole apparatus, not only the
Yes.
chariot and the senses and the mind and the reins, these all together are ego. Ego. Okay.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so you may think about it is the ego who is the bhoktā. As soon as the ego appears, that I am enjoying, I am suffering, I am planning, I am doing. So that becomes the bhoktā. That becomes the bhoktā, the experiencer.
So the
Yes.
buddhi is not making the decision that egoically it is going to be a certain way. The buddhi doesn't get to make that decision because through avidya, the ego kind of takes over.
No, it is not that. Buddhi has the capacity to disengage from this identification. Okay. That is why so much emphasis on purifying the intellect, buddhi.
Okay.
What is purification of intellect? Vivek, no, viveka, Vijnanavan, one who is well informed, who has cultivated this knowledge, where to put attention, what I should identify with, and what helps in that creating that viveka? Shravana. Here comes the power of Shravana, that is reflecting on the scriptures and these Upanishads and reading deeply about them. This purifies the intellect so that it decides which road to take, which thought to entertain, where to put attention and where not to. Okay.
So a person without a spiritual practice then does not really have very much power of awareness to make that buddhi decision.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, yes, without spiritual practice, buddhi cannot take spiritual decisions.
Okay.
It can take many other decisions to invest in Bitcoin or bond. Intellect is taking all the decisions, but for that, it does not require spiritual practice. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So steer us from the empirical life to that spiritual transcendental life. The buddhi, the intellect, has to be engaged in purifying the spiritual practice, the viveka. Okay, the viveka. Yes. Someone else was going to ask something? Yes, Murli, go ahead.
Okay, my mute was taking some time to work. I'm going with the same metaphor, and so you just made the case for Jnana Yoga with the buddhi, right? So what about when the chariot or the reins are damaged, or there is a defect, okay? Like a person has clinical depression, or a person has, or you have some,
Yes, yes. Yeah.
is that just like an extreme case wherein the buddhi is unable to override or something like that? I mean, how can this metaphor apply to that situation too?
Sure, absolutely. The reins can be in problematic shape. Reins has to be taken care of. Okay, taken care of. It will say that, a mind which is distracted, a mind which is ayukta, that is, you cannot put it where you want to put. And this is the biggest problem of psychological disorders, that you cannot stop thinking something. You cannot put your mind to three things you can see in the psychological disorders. One is communication problem, because it is attention is so scattered or hyper attentive on some aspects. Communication overall becomes problematic. Then second, we will see difficult to function, complete a task, because to do a task one needs attention. No, I have to do it, I have to complete it. You require some degree of attention. You will see psychological disorders affects our capacity to work. It also affects our capacity to relationship, love, emotional problems are also there. So indirectly, Upanishad is speaking about, surely we need a healthy chariot, a healthy wheel, pedals, all should be in good shape. It does not have to be super good shape. There should not be any problem. That is impossible. Impossible. If we have a mind, there will be a problem. The thing is how big the problem is. Is it so big that even with my intellect, I cannot guide my mind? And if you look at cognitive behavior therapy, the one of the dominant therapies now, it is just training the mind with the help of intellect, right? The thoughts are coming, you don't identify with the thoughts. Emotions are coming, you watch over the emotions. What is this actually happening? That we are being trained, we are trained to see the problems in our thoughts. So what we are doing is mind, where the thoughts are happening, we are training our cognition or our intellect to focus some places, or you may even say enlarge our focus and notice all of this. Okay. It is implied that the reins to control under the intellect, they should be of some degree of fitness, to some degree they should be fit. Yeah. Good. So how to conclude here, that the body is the car, the senses are the horsepower, the mind is the steering, the intellect is the driver, and we, the self, are the one who is sitting in the car and thinking. We are the passengers. Okay. So what the takeaway is this, the takeaway message is, awareness itself is neutral, but when it identifies itself with the sense, mental reactions, it starts feeling like consumer of experience. And the senses pull outward like the horses, objects are their roads, and when awareness identifies with this system, it experiences pleasure and pain. Experiences pleasure as well as pain. Okay. Is it clear? The two verses are clear. Don't feel shy. Go ahead, ask if you have any question about the analogy anywhere. Understanding it well will do a great job.
Put me back up.
Yeah.
Swami, I think it requires a lot of compassion towards ourselves because we're not able to really do it the way that these incredible texts say that we should have the capacity to.
Yeah. Actually, this is the very important thing. Very important thing. What we need is, after reading all of these, one thought may come to our mind that we might feel guilty about ourselves, right? That what we are doing, what we are supposed to do, right? So actually, the real feelings towards us should be of compassion. Compassion that we did not choose many of these things. The roads we are driving towards, many of these we did not choose, okay, but we are here. So what we need now is, as a friend treats a friend, help them out. So suppose I have a problem, a very silly problem that is understandable, something is not working for me, but I am still hanging on to that, right? And with this problem, I go to you, who is a good friend of mine, whom I can trust, whom I have confidence with. If I go to you, would you start rebuking me? That why have you done this? Why are you into this? Don't you know all of it? We don't do that, right? As a good friend, what we say, look, yes, you are in that. I can understand you are suffering and all of it, but you can come out of it. You can come out of it, and it will take time. You should have patience. Don't have set very high goals, unrealistic goals for you. It will take time. It will take time. Similarly, our attitude should be the same towards us. Okay, not feeling guilty about, not becoming critical about our own self, but thinking that, look, the same I can live up to a very, very free life and very expansive life, but I'm choosing to this. So you can live up to larger life. So compassion should be actually the real emotions or real attitude to our own self. And you know what? Psychology also says the same thing. Psychology also says the same thing, that ego, which is the problem, right? Identification is the problem. But what ego is trying to do is always to give us the false feeling that you are safe. You are safe. Actually, if we look at all of our activities or thought patterns, most of them are actually to give the ego a sense of security. Sense of security. Okay. So ego is trying day and night to prove that we are okay. We are okay. So it is trying heart and soul. So our real response should be compassion for this poor guy called ego. It is trying us to, give security in things which are not secure. It is trying to give us comfort in places where there is no comfort. But this guy is trying its best to keep us happy, keep us happy. And that is the root of all ego defense mechanisms, right? We have heard of ego defense mechanism, right? When we react to We react to things, or we try to maintain our ego. Try to maintain our ego. For example, if I have a identification with a teacher, I am a teacher. Suppose I am a good teacher. I am a good teacher of Vedanta. If I have this identification or this ego, which is, if it is a rigid one, what will become is I will try to defend this ego, because I am feeling that to function well in this world, to have your love and respect, I have to maintain that I am a good teacher. I am superior to you. I understand Upanishad better than you. Okay. So anytime I will see this is being threatened, will give me a signal, my love and respect from you is being threatened. I will try to defend my ego of a good teacher. I may get angry. I may not entertain your foolish questions. I may cut you off. I can shut you off. All of this. And this is actually most of our problems are like this. We fixate on something. We have to prove ourselves that I am something. Because why we are trying to prove? It is all related to security. All related to security. Because somehow we got the impression in childhood, if I don't prove myself as, an achiever, a learner, a top among all of these, I won't get love from my parents or my mom or my teacher. It means problem of survival. Survival. So that become a frozen pattern. Frozen pattern. Whole life we try to defend our ego as perfect, as best, as understand everything, as top in everything. Okay. And these creates anxiety and ego defense mechanisms, which are, frankly speaking, a hollow story. A hollow story. Actually, these are the things which take us away from love, which we actually are seeking from each other by trying to maintain our ego. Okay. So the idea is to have compassion for ourselves. That look what I am, where I am, but we can actually live much better life. Just hear about it, that you come to know that one of your neighbors is actually a billionaire, but living such a stingy life. What do you think about that person? Compassion. You will see compassion will come. You will think, what, you don't know how well you can live, and you are living like this. Compassion will come to your mind, and the right attitude will be compassion. Similarly, it matters a lot how we treat ourselves, compassionately as a friend or not. Okay. All right. So to next day we'll see good driver, bad driver. Who is a good driver? Who is a bad driver? Okay. So the thing is, these are not two different people. The same person becomes good driver. Same person can become bad driver, and mostly we are sometimes good driver, sometimes bad driver. How we can become a better driver, so that we do our driving better and better. That will be the themes of the next two verses. Okay, we shall see it later on. With this, we conclude our class. We say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So we're going to do defensive driving then.
Defensive driving, yes, absolutely. Defensive driving is a good driving, yes. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. Have a good time. This is a long weekend. Have a good weekend. See you next Friday.